Hey bookaholics, it's Isabel and welcome to another video. So today we are going to ignore the last few months that I haven't updated and just pretend it never happened. So hello, we are in self-isolation right now. My auntie and I have not left the house except for me going grocery shopping and doing all that. Since the last time I talked to you, my uncle did pass away, and then this thing happened, so he passed away at the end of March. And then this whole COVID-19 all happened. Everything's just been a mess. I am still getting paid, but I'm no longer working. I can't exactly go there since it is a high customer kind of job. So, can't work. I have been reading a lot since I last updated you and since this quarantine happened. So, let me just tell you about these books that I've read so far. Just gonna look at my Goodreads. I'm not gonna grab it because that takes too long. I'm not too sure if I talked to you about the books I read last video I did. I don't think so. So let's just go into those. So I read Roomies by Christina Lauren. I gave it 3 stars because it was just cute. I enjoyed it. It had its fun moments, but it wasn't anything really memorable. It was kind of like The Proposal, except not at all. It follows this girl who's kind of obsessed with this guy who plays the guitar, I think, in the subway station, and she ends up contacting her uncle, who is a music producer or something like that, and they meet, and then they learn that he doesn't have a visa. So all this stuff happens and they end up marrying to get him to stay in North America. So that's pretty much the gist of this one. It is enjoyable, it's typical, it's fun, so yeah. The next one I read was The Toll. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great conclusion to this series. It kind of went to a different way than I thought it would. Like, I don't know how I thought it would end, but like the way that it did was very surprising. But like, that's what Neal Shusterman is good at. He knows how to really spring something on you and you not even expecting it. So like, I'm very, very happy with it. I'm happy with the conclusion, and I really just love this whole series. It will probably be one of my top favorites for a very, very long time. Next one, it was a reread, but it was because I wanted to read the second book. So the next one I read was The Seventh Song by Victoria Schwab. Read this one like 2 years ago. I did not remember anything that happened, so I had to reread it again. I read it as an audiobook though. It was still just as much fun. I gave it 4 I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was just fun. I'm not going to go into detail of the second one, but I'll explain this one. So, The Seventh Song follows 2 people who are in this world that monsters are real. They are created through the violence of humans, and it follows a girl who is a human and her father is kind of like the big shot of a city, and then the other one that we follow is a monster. So that's all I'm going to say about it. It is very, very fun book, especially to go in blind not really knowing what to expect, so that's all I'm going to explain. The next one I read was Eleanor, Oliphant is Completely Fine. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It was very enjoyable. This just follows a very quirky, very socially inept character, and it's just very, very interesting, and it's a new way of seeing through the world through her eyes. It's really hard to explain about this book because there's just like this presence of her character that not many characters that I've read have, and it was just a very interesting perspective of a human who is very socially inept and just kind of set in her ways and kind of rude, but like she's not meaning to be rude in a mean way. It's just how she works. So like it was very fun to go throughout her world and see how her perspective of the world is. So I don't know what else to say about it. The next one I read was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. So Vicious.
Holy shit.
I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. I honestly went in it pretty blind. I knew it followed like brothers or roommates. I ended up learning that it was roommates as I read it, but I didn't know exactly who it followed. I just heard superhumans and villains and stuff like that, and it is that, but it's completely not that. Like, it was violent. It was, I don't know how to explain it. but it was such a fascinating book and it's written so well. Everything just kind of fit and it just worked so well, and just how the characters were and how they acted, and it was just so human in certain ways and so not human in others, and it was just fascinating. The next one I read was Our Dog Duet by Victoria Schwab. Finally read this one. I did end up reading it as audiobook, so it kind of was cohesive in both books. I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. It concluded well and I was enjoying it, but it just wasn't as fascinating and as action-packed as the first one. The first one I really enjoyed following the characters, and then the second one there was just so much going on and it was hard to follow, especially in audiobook. It might have been different if I read it in physical copy, but the audiobook, everything was just happening in different aspects of the book, and I was sometimes confused about what was happening because, like, the main character Kat was over in another city, August was in his own city, and then they eventually come back together, but like it was just everything in different areas at most of the book, and it was just very hard to follow and it just wasn't as enjoyable. It was a nice conclusion. I did enjoy it, but it just not as much as the first one, so I got 3 out of 5. The next book I read was What I Lost by Alexandra Ballard. This one, it was still good. I really did enjoy it because it does follow a girl who is anorexic, and I never read a book like that before, so I was really happy to read that and kind of get that representation. It did get 3 out of 5 stars. There was some focus on the eating disorder, but I kind of felt like there was a lot of things shadowing that, like the drama between the girls, the mystery that comes in of who's sending her gifts. I really did enjoy the parents aspect of it when the parents are brought in, and how her relationship with her mom and her dad were strained because they didn't understand exactly what she was going through. That dynamic was very, very interesting to read, but all the other things like the drama and the mystery that came in, I just don't feel like those were needed. I think it should have focused more on the eating disorder than all these other layers. So that's why I got 3 out of 5. The next one I read was It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Zizzini. This one I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. I'm not too sure if it's because I read the audiobook, and I did watch the movie a very, very long time ago, so there was a certain expectation, and the beginning of the book, it kind of dragged out until he actually got into the hospital, and then even when they're in the hospital, I don't know if it was the audiobook, I really did love the characters. Don't get me wrong, the characters were so interesting and I really loved the representation again, but I just didn't quite hit the mark that I was looking for. I'm not too sure what I was looking for. There was just a certain expectation that I had going in and I just didn't hit it. The next one I didn't actually finish. I've been trying to read it for the last 3 months. It was an audiobook and I just could not connect to the character. I could not connect to the plot of the novel, and I just really hated some of the things that were happening, and that was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. So many people love this book, and honestly, I don't know why. I really just could not get into this at all. And I don't have any desire to pick up the physical copy to see if it was the audiobook. Every time I press play, I just couldn't do it. I got probably like about 40% in, and I couldn't do it anymore and decided to DNF it. It was just done, and I feel so relieved because I just didn't care. The next book I read was All My Love, Alec Brock by Larissa Lopes. All My Love, Alec Brock follows a girl who is in this relationship online with this guy named Alec Brock. They met before he became a famous pop star, so they've been emailing and texting and calling each other for a year and a half, and she finally decided to move to LA so they can be together. And when she went to go meet him, Alec Brock didn't know who she was. So it pretty much follows after that when they're trying to figure out who has been emailing her and phoning her and essentially dating her this whole time. This mystery is going on. Alec Brock and the main character are getting closer. I was intrigued. I really wanted to read it, so I said yes to reading it and giving a review. It was a fun read. I read it very quickly. I read in like 2 days once I really started to sit down and read. I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars. One of the reasons is that I just could not connect to the character, And the other reason is that the love interest, Alec Brock, just did not seem real. Some of the things he said and did, I had to shake my head because it just didn't make sense to me at all. I really love the concept. I think it was such a great idea, but it just wasn't executed greatly, and I couldn't get behind it, and I don't think I'm going to continue with the series. Next I read was Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but honestly, I just thought this book was meh. I can understand why a lot of people were so enthusiastic and so fascinated by this book, because it is fascinating. But I think because I knew that there were other worlds, I was expecting something else than what I got in this book. This one still stays in just our world. We learn about other worlds, we learn about them talking about it, but we don't actually get to see it. And I think that is what I was expecting. I was expecting to see a different world, different things like that. And we don't get to see that in this book. I'm pretty sure you get to see it in the other books. I'm hoping so, because I'm probably going to continue it, but this book kind of disappointed me. It was honestly just meh for me. I didn't expect the mystery, but at the same time, I just didn't feel like it added much either. So, yeah. Unpopular opinion, I just thought this was a meh book, and I gave it 3 to 5 stars. And then the last book here, I just finished this one today. It's The Cactus by Sarah Haywood. I did end up giving this book 4 to 5 stars, but I honestly didn't think that was going to happen when I first started this book. So this book follows a woman who's a very prickly character. She's not very likable, and it's hard to get into her perspective of how she thinks. Like, honestly, there was times where I was just so mad and just so flabbergasted by the things she thought. I honestly wasn't too sure if I was gonna like it. Like, I was expecting myself to give it like 2 or 1 star. But as I progressed through the book, I started to like her. Like, in the sense that, yes, she is pretentious and she's so condescending and very, very rude. Some people are just like that, and it's not like, I don't honestly think she was meaning to be rude. It's just how she was wired. And I think that's so interesting. Like, honestly, she wasn't like one of those girls who tries to be rude to someone and is just mean. She wasn't like that. Like, that's not exactly how she thought. It's just that she had a certain way that she thought things should be. And sometimes if someone doesn't fit that role, she has a very low opinion of them, like her brother in this book. I eventually started to understand her. One line in this book really resonated with me. So this is actually what she said in this line. I'd rather read about someone interesting than someone who's just nice. And honestly, that summarized this book very, very well, because she is definitely interesting, but she was not nice. But in the sense that she wasn't meaning to be. She wasn't meaning to be mean. She wasn't meaning to hurt people. That's what I found very, very interesting about her. It's just how she perceived life and how she perceived things to be. That was just a new kind of perspective. Kind of the same thing with Eleanor. Oliphant is completely fine. People do compare these two. I don't think that's accurate because they are pretty different. This one I didn't mention, but she's also pregnant and she's starting to go through the pregnancy and getting the hormones and having all these different things happening all at once. And it's just, it's pretty fascinating, and I did read an audiobook and I really, really love the narrator. I just felt like the author did a very good job in creating a character who is unlikable in every aspect, but still have her come out as likable somehow. That was the last book I read in this. I don't even know how many that is. That's like 12 or something. And that's what I've read so far this year. It's not a lot in the scheme of things, but like, I read the last few books just this month. I'm pretty happy with that. Obviously, I did a video and I've created different shelves. This whole shelf here, I changed into my TBR shelf, and it's full. I have 127 unread books. I own them all. And I haven't read any of these on this shelf. And I need to read them because it's getting ridiculous. So I made different shelves on my Goodreads. And I'm going to go by each shelf and pick ones to read. and then go from there, because I just cannot get any more books until I read more of my unread ones, because it's a whole shelf full of TBR books. And it's kind of ridiculous. So like, it's time for me to change that. That's gonna be some of the next videos, is just TBRs, and maybe even showing you all my unread books will be a video that will be hella long. If you guys enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have read any of these books, let me know down in the comment, and let me know how you thought of them. And let me know how you are dealing with self-isolating, because honestly, it's starting to get a little claustrophobic, but at the same time, I am an introvert. So there are times when I'm just living for this, because then I don't have anyone coming over. I don't have like a bunch of people upstairs making a bunch of noise. Can just hang out at home and not have to worry about it. So like, that's always nice. I'm fine with it. Well, not really fine with it, but like, it's okay. Like, I can't go to bookstores because they're closed, which is very, very sad. And I can't go to my sister's place. She can't come over here. I haven't seen her. Like, I went for a walk with her a week ago, but it's her birthday today. Like, she's turned 30 today, and I can't even go see her. Like, I can't hug her. And it's honestly so annoying. But it is what it is. I'll see you guys next video, whenever that will be. Bye!